Hey, Dr. Clem, my good friend James, how are you doing this Friday?
Todd, it's good to be Friday, finishing the first week back in the clinical theater.
How
I'm
was it for
alive.
you? What
I'm
was
on
your?
fire. Yeah,
I bet you had something really unique. For your PPE, you got just a rain poncho and threw it
I
over. I thought that
did.
was brilliant.
Yeah, but you know what, Todd? Todd said I looked like I'm working in a cafeteria serving beans.
Yeah, you had
Well,
your hair net and everything. It looked good
they
on
always
you.
say you need a backup profession, so I'm glad I'm getting prepared.
You're going to be the great first
And I'm
server
not
at the
putting it down, by
cafeteria
the
line.
way. I'm not putting it down. When I was in high school, I used to work in the cafeteria a little bit. So and I learned a lot about food. In fact, I still work in a cafeteria. It's called the Clem Cafeteria at home, and I cook probably half the time.
Oh, do you? I cook quite often too, but
But you saw my wife make something on our last webcast, didn't you?
yeah, no, she made quesadillas, and I didn't get anything. I could smell it through the camera, so she owes me.
I'm glad I could eat part of that online and make.
Yeah. So, what was your highlight for the week? I mean, getting back into using a handpiece, where the patient's looking at you like, "Do you know how to use that thing?"
More of it for me was just having to deal with a few more clinical procedures, many with the PPE. Even though we've always done good PPE, I think right now we may be really going over extreme on it, and maybe
Hmm.
extreme is too strong a word, but we want to make sure we're safe. But most importantly, our patients are stay safe. I want to make sure my staff is safe. Until we get more guidelines and they settle in, I think we have to take the precautions. I like the flow. I've always used a one chair flow in my practice for the last 20 years. So the clinical flow isn't any different. It's just I'm having to work to create a safe environment for my hygienists because they're older than me. And so we have some concerns about some health things there. So
Yeah.
until we get that established and they feel safe on it, we may not get hygiene up and going for a few weeks, but we'll,
Yeah.
we'll,
No, I
we'll work
understand.
through it.
Yeah, we're going through the same thing.
And yourself, how was your week back in Texas? I know you've been back quite a few, what, 3 weeks now? So you're
Yeah,
rolling. Yeah.
yeah, but we did our first week was a soft start. We only saw a few patients per day, just so we could kind of get the flow of the new way a patient walks in, and so we choreographed all of that. And mainly, what we're trying to do is make our entire office the operatory, where everything's being wiped down, and the patients are aware of it. So we have one person that's dedicated to bringing them in, showing everything, making sure the communications are there about what we are doing. I think that's the most important thing, because if you're not
Yeah.
communicating those things to your patients, you're going to have one or two people that are going to think, well, they weren't doing this before, and we don't want that at all. We need them to know we've always been doing this, other than, taking their
You know, the,
temperature
the,
at the front
the
door.
comments I got, yeah, the comments I got this week as well, you're really taking this seriously.
Yeah.
Right, because you need to make sure that they know what's going on. So
I had one patient ask me when I walked in a room, is that you back behind that, Dr. Clem? Gave me some ideas. Maybe I could get some clones here with the outfit and expand my business in different ways I never thought of before.
robots, you need robots in your office. That's what you need. You
Right,
need
right
Clem,
here, right here.
a team of Clem robots. That's a good sci-fi movie, I
You
think.
know, I have to be vulnerable here. With me being a little more of an introvert, being behind that garb where people can't recognize me, it made me feel like special. I was going, yeah, this is my little sanctuary. I can
Did
be here and nobody knows who I am, and I can still be nice. And I don't know. I just had to share that with you.
I think it took you back to your high school white lightning days, right? I'm never going to let you get over that. That was I died laughing
Okay.
going home last night. So anyway, White Lightning. Hey, White Lightning, you got any deep thoughts for us today? I didn't even
Well,
ask you.
my deep
I'll,
thought is actually a profound thought about our guest, and that's Dr. Scott and Dr. Leslie Strommer. These are some of my favorite people in dentistry because I like them just as people. And on top of that, they're incredible clinicians.
yeah, go
And
ahead. Go ahead,
here's
James.
something I remember. Once we were in a class situation together, and their reservations for a hotel, which was a nicer one, wasn't ideal. So they stayed at a hotel that was unique. In other words, is one of those hotels that my family used to stay at that you had to make sure everything was clean. but what was neat about it was their attitude. They didn't take a downer attitude. They actually had fun with it and making fun memories. And that's who these people are. They know how to take a situation, pivot it, and make it ideal and grow from it. And that's the Strommers. And they're on board with us right now. Leslie and Scott, thank you for being here. Just put your hand over your heart right now. Come on, put your hand over your heart. You just say, you're basically some of my favorite people in dentistry. Thank you for coming on board. And we're so excited to have you here. And as a couple who are both dentists and have their own practices, share with us how you're processing all this, getting up and going again, your team members, your great communicators. How are you folks processing that with your families?
Wow.
You
go first.
You want to go first? Oh, I go first. So gosh, that's a big question, James. We've really taken advantage of this time. It's as much as scary as it's been having to close our practice for 2.5 months. We really decided to shift and make it an opportunity to make changes in the practice that, first of all, needed to be made probably in terms of our systems and efficiency. And we took this time to just really look at how we're doing everything now and, look at how we could make it better. And so when you talk about communicating with our families, boy, this time, we haven't just been working on the practices. We've been able to reconnect with our family members. We've been doing family Zoom meetings, I'm sure, like everyone else, with people that you usually see once a year at your holiday. And, we're seeing everyone every week. So we've been doing that with both of our families. What I've been loving is I've been inviting, after about a month, and we knew everyone was safe, we've been connecting with our kids and our girlfriends, very safely, of course, but, for Sunday night family dinners. So we've just been able to spend good time, with our kids. We've been cooking again. That skill was gone for a minute. we both realized, we're pretty good cooks. We know how to cook. So with that came, some weight gain too. So that's a whole nother thing that we got to deal with after this. But the last few weeks we've been focusing on getting back to work and spending a lot of time with our teams and getting everyone prepared. So Scott opened up, Mission Valley opened up last week, and our Coronado practice is opening up on Tuesday. So
that's amazing. Scott, when we
Scott.
were in the green room, you were talking about working with your team and the communication and the systems that you've just refined. Leslie's mentioned that already. Why don't you, since your practice, the part of the Strommer practice, opened up this last week, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's Friday, right? So after this, I have to go check on one post-op on a patient, but we just completed the first week. And it was kind of in phases, at least the way I looked at it. It was more of a, that initial really fearful, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Very reactionary, defensive. And then you get through that phase and we started responding, right? We were able to just have some sense of where we're at and where we're going. And then we're kind of in that, now we're into a recovery mode, right? Let's get back into, what we're here to do, help other people safely, and putting all that in place. And I was sharing with you, we spent, and it was really about not just for the team, but also for the patients. Me, myself, I don't do well with absolute, complete unknown and change. I mean, I'll get there, but initially there's always a level of fear before I can, turn it over and know that it's going to be all right.
Sure. Yeah.
And we did spend, it was 2 full weeks with our team. No, I lied. by the time we got to a Friday, the whole team said, no, we're done. We're good. We don't need any more. But it was this having to think and figure out the new ways we were going to have to run our business. And we would spend the mornings just really kind of a brain dump, masterminding, figuring out what we do. We'd take a nice lunch, and then we would come back and we would have those sticky note, big oversized ones all over the waiting room. And we would write down what we're going to get into action on. And I'll have to say, having done that, we got reconnected with each other. We got, like Leslie said, the things that we always wanted to implement, but it seems like it's just too busy to do. And the team was awesome. They had this sense of where we were going. I couldn't have asked for a better first week back. So
that's great.
Yeah, it was nice. It's nice to get back to work, and
you know what? Yeah, you know why you're having such great success is because you guys are good leaders. I think all the things I've seen on Facebook, my friends, all the teams that were kind of heartfelt together to begin with are all coming back strong as well. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are discovering that their leadership may have been lacking a little bit. So they're going to have some struggles. And so you guys have separate practices. How far away are they? Can you give us a little bit of a view on how you guys work every day?
So our Mission Valley practice is the practice that we started from scratch. Way back in, it's our original practice since we came out of school. It's been moved a few times. So that's the practice that we used to work in together. And then, so that's in Mission Valley, across the street from where we live right now. That's we call our big practice, practice with all the technology and all the goodies. And 3 years ago in 2017, we bought a practice in Coronado. So Coronado is roughly 10 miles from where we are here in Mission Valley, but you heard of Coronado Island. Even though it's not a true island, people treat it like an island. Once you live in Coronado, people really don't want to leave Coronado. So even though by proximity it's not that far, leaving the island, going somewhere else, having to get off take the bridge and go somewhere is something that people don't want to do. So it's definitely its own community. So I've taken over that practice in Coronado about February 2017. So that was an adventure, and it's turned out to be really great, really, really great.
Now,
yeah, I watched your remodeling on Facebook, and I was really intrigued because I know both you and Scott have really good aesthetic taste, and both your practices have this unique theme.
Very.
Was it fun to just take that and make it into your personality? And you're already going into this staged personality about where it was, but you took that building. Is the building still pink on the outside, or was it? If I recall,
it's white. Yeah,
it's white. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a little gingerbread house, but
that's what.
Yes.
Like a Kincaid painting.
Yeah.
And that was so much fun. But
it's been it was really fun to do that. I think just the whole purchasing of a practice. When people ask us, what should I start a practice or buy a practice? Now we can actually say we've had the experience of both.
Both,
completely different experiences, and pros and cons to both, of course. But taking over Coronado and creating its own environment, I took advantage of the fact that Scott wasn't there initially, so I made it definitely more. I made it more girly. It became the girly looking practice before he had a chance to get down there.
I think that's so neat, Scott. I saw a little bit of the emotional come through on that one, but I know you. Go ahead.
It's true. There was when we bought the practice in Coronado has been a dental practice for 80 plus years.
Wow.
It's a little bubble community. My dad's a Navy pilot, so everybody knows about North Island and all that. So that's the connection there. And I still have family on the island. But when we were taking it over, there's this little tiny community of people. And so Leslie had to really, we had never done this before. There's some people that buy and sell practices all the time. This was our first time. The only thing we've had is what we built from scratch a long time ago. And we had to make a decision early on. It was a little bit of fear on both sides, where we were in the middle on the Mission Valley was getting relocated and building out another new office from the ground up. And this one wasn't going well. We had done that 3 times. This is the 3rd time. And so there was already some drama and stuff going on there. And then we bought the one in Coronado. And so as we were getting ready to take it over, we had to make a decision that, in thinking of the teams and the patients, Leslie was going to be on her own over there, and I was going to run Mission Valley and get it built. And so that was the first time in 25 years that we hadn't worked together. We were alone. And I didn't know how to write a check. I didn't know how to enter stuff in QuickBooks. I hadn't been doing that for 20 plus years. And so there was a lot of chaos going on, and that's kind of how the last 5 years, we've always had one big project or another going on. And I don't know, we're good at that. We're a good team that way. So there's good ways. For example, in COVID, I've become a better leader. You brought that up, Todd. It's so much about everybody's a leader. It's just about how good are you at it, or what type are you. And I've gotten better at delegating. Okay. I don't know if my team are going to agree with that, but there's just absolutely no way you can do some of these things without division of labor and delegating and having systems in place so that you can, have the result that you want.
Yeah, so well said. I think every decade of my career, I've had to pivot a little bit, either new technology or new objectives. And particularly when I started getting more into education, you have to work the two together. And I know both you folks are really into education. I was watching Facebook, and I'm so proud of Leslie. Leslie's a mentor at COIS now. And I know that's a lot of work. Of all the postgraduate institutes out there, I think I respect COIS more than anyone because of the way you folks develop that. And I know, Scott, you've been highly involved with COIS, and you're involved with the leadership there, and also you're on faculty as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you folks work that together with your practices, and how do you folks take the time away where you're educating other people at the highest level in dentistry?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, John Coyce, he's a fantastic educator. Like Todd, like James, we have so many of them here in San Diego. We've got a fantastic community of CAD/CAM and ceramic dentists, and we forget that it's not like this everywhere else in the world, right? So I'm cognizant of it now, but I used to travel and start talking about it, and people would look sideways because they didn't have that type of community that we have. And that's what John Coyce has done. It's so neat. It's about people. It's about changing lives, right? And it's not just about how to do full mouth rehabs or occlusion. It's probably the things that everybody does at some level, but when you start taking it to another level and doing it intentionally, it makes things easier. And for Leslie and I, we started, well, I guess I started before her, but then we came through and we started going through the curriculum together. And at some point you start having some kids and life and things get busy, and I went and she didn't. And that was okay, but like a marriage, if you're not both on the same page, it's literally harder. Remember when we made the jump to digital dentistry and you still had some old analog? When you're half in, half out, it's harder. Like 1 foot on the pier, 1 foot in the boat. It's not a pretty place. Somebody's going to get wet and it's going to hurt. So it was hard to get to the level of, all right, let's recommit and let's do this always. But once we did it, it's like a language. When you start thinking in the language, like when you learn that second language, it's different to talk in it, but you start thinking in it. And so as we went through John's curriculum, it was fantastic. Now we're both on the same page, and we can pick up where the other one left off, whether it's her case, my case. I'm in her office, she's in my office. We call them his and hers offices now. So I think it's been not just about me as a clinician. It's helped me be a better leader, a better person. I can connect with patients with more confidence. And that's what our patients want, right? They just want us to, they know when you're confident and you're coming across with their best interest, right? I see everybody nodding their heads.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Leslie, so you had a big accomplishment just recently. Tell us about that.
Well, yes, so Scott has been a clinical and a COIS mentor and a clinical instructor for quite a few years now. And yeah, like he mentioned, I think because of the family and the practices, I was always trailing him in going through this curriculum because it is it's quite a time commitment in terms of going to Seattle and taking these courses. But they're definitely, when I saw his knowledge and, how he had this grasp and this ease when it came to treatment planning, even though, and we practiced together, at some point I said, okay, I gotta finish this. I gotta get there. And so, I finished the curriculum. And then after that, to be able to be a mentor, you do have to go through the process of taking a mentor exam. And I kind of stalled. It took a while to get there. Just fear, just something I was going to put off because I knew once I committed for that year, it was planning. So last year I took the exam and finished. And boy, this year's been a lot less stressful. That's for sure. But we both got to go mentor together in March for the first time. So that's really fun. It's just, it's a whole different level. We're just at a different place and a different level in our careers. It's a time, where we've been around the block. Where I say to Scott all the time, I'm like, honey, we're not the new dentist anymore. We're like the old people.
Seasoned.
I'm like,
Seasoned, yeah.
God, I'm the old. I said I go to all these women's meetings and there's all these awesome, amazing young females. I'm like, honey, I'm the old broad now. I'm the old.
No.
But it's not in a bad way. But it's we get to give back and teach. You realize when you're mentoring how much more than these younger dentists who are new in practice, and they haven't had the years and the time yet. So that's been really fun. And we're involved quite a bit in our local dental community. We serve on the San Diego County Dental Foundation here in San Diego. So that's something else that we get to participate in together as well. So we're trying
wait a minute. I'm new to that board. Leslie is the president.
Yeah, and Leslie, I have to say something. I was watching Scott when you mentioned that you folks went to COIS together, and he was doing this.
So yeah,
Very
for
proud.
me, Leslie teases me, and she says your vacations are up at the COIS Center, and I said, well, when you're a mentor, we can go up together.
There you
So I don't know.
My thought.
Both of you are in education. You can appreciate it. It's like being of service
totally.
to someone and helping someone get to the next level, right? And it feels great, but it's always about some level of, personal growth. Always,
Sure.
I've found, and this is my friend Paula, personal growth always precedes professional growth. So when pushing ourselves and when you guys are at your institutes and you're teaching others, right? That's like anything when you become a novice, a beginner, a journeyman, a master, an expert. That's that whole continuum, and that's when you can start teaching. That's really making the whatever subject matter you're in. When you can give it away, that's the level that I think Leslie and I, we were talking on our walk this morning. What are we going to talk about? And we have this competitive nature of one's here, the other one will catch up, and whether it's cooking or doing dentistry.
But I know you guys laugh together, and I always say, I'm 37 years out now, and in
Wow.
many ways I feel like I'm in my prime because I have experience, though my body doesn't always feel like it's in its prime. uh, Everything counterweighs itself, and I think it's about attitude. And one thing I've learned even through this COVID time and downtime, which I've never been through anything like this, that I had to grip at a deeper level in my mind, thinking and processing my emotions, and saying, how am I going to come back? Because we all are having to be creative in what we do, where there's a new norm.
Yeah.
And
There is.
you have to get up and you have to face it, not be a victim of it. And I think sometimes there's little emotions around here that may process those all dynamics of emotions that we have. But I know just with Todd and I started talking more with the COVID coming on, and then all of a sudden we decided, well, let's start sharing this with a live Facebook feed, and so it's even changed us, and now it's probably going to change us professionally the rest of our careers, because now we're doing something that has fed us, and we're wanting to feed other people, because it's all about blessing other people. I think I learned that when you're down, or maybe if you're being challenged, if you can bless other people, then it helps bring everybody's mindset up. And that's what life is all about. We define ourselves not through the good times, but through the times that stretch us the most. And they come in many different ways, shapes, and form. Now, I wanted to ask you folks, because you have two beautiful sons. And if I recall, they went to school up at Gonzaga, up in Spokane, right?
One of them.
One of them. Okay. Now, one of your sons has graduated. Where did your other son go to school?
He went to Chapman University.
Okay.
Our older son, Kyle. Yes.
Kai, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
No,
got
that's
that off
okay.
on
Yeah.
Facebook.
No.
And now,
Go
did
ahead,
I
James.
understand that one of them is involved with the practices right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We have Ryan. Ryan's the younger one, and we brought him on to, well, I think it was more by circumstance than planning, right? He had a job that was set up with a startup company, which actually very successful, was on a Shark Tank and got picked up by Mark Cuban and all that. Long story short is it wasn't quite working out for him, and he needed a job. And we just kind of said, well, I'm sure you'll do fine. Go get him, Tiger. And we've all had that time in our life where we had to go out and do something. So Leslie and I are really on the same page. We're not really here to prevent our children or other people from having a consequence. We don't want anybody to get hurt, but yeah, go ahead, try it. So he initially got out and was working, has anybody done door-to-door sales for fiber optics? But check this out. It's so applicable to something. They would go in, they would have 3-4 hours of training, verbiage, scripting, role playing, take them out into the field or the neighborhood where they're doing service in the area, ma'am. We would like to check and, that kind of thing. And, it happened to be a super hot summer. They had to walk and all be out there, like just sweating in the heat, come back to their office and then bookend it and recap and see how far you got in the sale. Anyways, very structured systems, right? Back to systems. Well, he found out that's not for him. And we needed somebody for the office, and we were down just masterminding. We said, you know what? We created a formal employment offer for him, and we set it out, and we treated him like we have every other employee. So he now works for us, and we're putting him into a position of management to try to manage the two offices, because, well, personally, I don't want to do that stuff. That's
Sure.
We all wear those hats, and that's one of the hats that he's got a degree in business, and he's doing fantastic. Oh my gosh, during this COVID time, that's one of the things that the team members have done so much. All those things that can be overwhelming in terms of figuring out what to do. So Ryan's mainly at the Mission Valley office, but we're hoping to get him into a position of kind of a COO of the two practices.
Nice.
That's great.
What a great resource. That's really cool.
Yeah, as a parent, for sure, the nice thing is when you see your children and they, and they grow up and you have this perception of how they are. And what's been so great is, Scott and I, and we even say this to him directly. We're like, wow, you are really smart. and, like he constantly impresses us. And that's it's such a nice, it's not, I wouldn't even say surprise, but it's almost like you see that and then you give yourself a pat on the back because, he's our child, but it's been great. And who knows where it's taking him. What I told him is, right now, I hope that you're learning how to run a small business, no matter what business it is, this is what we're doing. And, hopefully that experience can take him to wherever he wants, right?
Well, not only you guys both great leaders, you're great parents. That's obvious. So, when they get to that age, and I'm sure Leslie, the whole time he was growing up, you're thinking, oh my gosh, he's just like his dad. This is gonna be bad. And he turned out okay because he was probably more like you, right?
You really just don't know. You
just
don't
kidding,
know.
Scott. Yeah.
You don't.
You're right.
Well,
You're
actually, Scott, I think Leslie had to kind of step back while you got all your fancy degrees and everything up there at Coy's, and she just had to take the test. I think it's about time you take the test on how to run the family, right? Right, Leslie? She's mastered that, so you'll get into that.
Well, I mean, to that note, I think Scott, that was our roles in the practice was, he drove more of the clinical, our clinical protocols in the back office. And I definitely followed because of the COIS protocols and he implemented them. And I definitely was the person who drove the business side and the numbers and the QuickBooks and all of that. So, when we had the division of labor with the
and then she left me.
What?
And then I left him, and I'm like, "What? You got to do your own books. What are you talking about?" But no, all kidding aside, we have had to both. I've had to step up my clinical game, and over the past few years, I've probably done more dentistry in the last 3 years than I did worked more on patients than I did probably my entire career. And Scott has had to learn how to, look at his numbers and do his spreadsheets and do his QuickBooks. And so, we've expanded our knowledge even further.
You can do it, Scott. You can do it. I have faith. What do you got right there? Oh, there's some numbers right there. Look, he's even written it down like he was instructed to.
Yep.
It's so interesting on this journey because as we talk about our preferences, and we always operate best when we're in our brain strength. And a lot of clinicians dwell more in their creative side. And even now, I started off in my career micromanaging, and then I went the opposite where I delegated everything. And now I'm kind of coming back to the middle because you got to always keep your fingers on the pulse of what's going on and what drives you. But I think that's so neat. Now, there's something else I need to talk about here because Leslie and Scott, you know I love you, right? Do you know that? But there's really there's a reason why I follow your Facebook because I love your dogs.
Oh, I do.
Are they in your? If you want.
Yeah, let's see them.
And we all have that in common. Todd is a dog lover. In fact, right here, I'm petting my Jordan right now. He's my German Shepherd. And what do you guys do with your dogs during the day? Do they go to work with you, or are they just trained to hang out at home, or do they go to a kennel, or how do you deal with that?
Well, we've always had dogs. We had big labs. And then at one time we had 3 dogs, like big 100-something pound lab. Then this Labradoodle that we adopted, Cody, and this Golden Doodle, very poodle-like. But I love dogs, and I was kind of like, no more dogs. But I wanted to get a motorcycle many years ago. And so Leslie said, well, if you get a motorcycle, I'm getting a dog. And here we are. Boom, now we have 3 of them.
And no motorcycle.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
he has
still
a
got my
motorcycle.
Oh,
But
you did?
Scott,
Okay, good.
Scott, when your pictures with your dogs is like it shows your tender side.
I know. I love them, but I won't let Leslie know that. And she, oh my, these dogs get walked 3 times a day by Leslie for sure in the morning before work. We have somebody midday that helps us out, and then usually we go for a walk together in the afternoon with them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they are work. Like my
Yep.
dog he goes to work with me. Fortunately, he behaves in a way where I put him in my study, and he just waits for me. And he'd rather be. In fact, right now he wants to go to the office. He goes, "I'm in my home studio," and he goes, "Why aren't we at the office?" And he comes and nudges me. He wants to go because he's in their routine. But I was just thinking, where they're with you, and they are a life that we're responsible for, but yet the love that I get, and they always say that you have better emotional health when you have an animal. I had a problem with that with cats, even though I love cats, but a dog really brings that out.
No, the
I'm
dogs do.
with you,
Cats,
James.
no
I am
cats.
with you
I
100%.
remember when you got your dog, James. That was beautiful
Oh,
because it
and
was like a newborn, wasn't it? It was
it
great.
was it was a learning experience, and to me, it's like he's with me 24 hours a day. In fact, uh, I didn't even want to travel anymore because I don't want. I mean, my wife is good when I'm gone because she's independent, but my dog, he goes through
Aw.
depression, and I just,
Well,
it's just me.
We have
And
three
Todd has,
dogs. I have
they have
three.
three.
No, I'll
Yeah.
say this. My wife and my 2 kids have 3 dogs. That's how many are living in
ah,
our house.
Ah.
But I have little dogs, little dachshunds and a Yorkie mix. So, but I can't imagine my house without the dogs in there because they help make
Oh.
it a home for sure. So,
No doubt
so
about it.
yeah, well, you guys, I've just had great inspiration from both of you. I think you two are.
Yeah.
I don't think you know what kind of leaders you actually are in this world, and so you may not feel. I saw that look on your face, Leslie. You really are, and
Oh, thank you.
well, we're having very, exclusive people on our show, and you are definitely at the high of the list. What we're doing, and your work with the Coyce Institute is very important. And keep leading us, keep telling us where we should be directed, because you guys have a unique perspective with your 2 practices, your marriage, your great kids, and so keep leading us on
And great
Facebook or
dogs.
wherever.
And great dogs.
And great dog.
And great
Yeah.
dogs. You you have any last words for your great fans out here?
Go, Scott.
I would say don't do it alone. Dentistry can be a really solitary environment.
So true. Yeah.
I've already mentioned it, and many of the groups that we're in, whether it's with Digital Enamel or the Climb Institute, the Coyce Center, so many, Remo here in San Diego has created a just fantastic fellowship, if you will, right? It's really a group. And
It's the best in the world. Best
Yeah.
in the world.
And in dentists environment, we can kind of go into our little cave and forget that there's a whole bunch of other people doing what we're doing out there. So there's things that you got to do on your own, but if you can, I'm pretty quick now to reach out and ask for help. And I guess maybe it's a sign of maturity. I don't know if my wife would sign off on that, but there's a level of like, you have to feel safe enough to ask someone for help because you don't know. So it would be along the lines of, reach out, ask for help, and that'll push you and help bring other people along, right?
Wow. Leslie.
Yeah. I would just say continue to push yourself to grow and learn. I think,
Yeah.
learning, I can't, Scott and I have always been so committed to continuing education, but, for us, I think it's keeping us interested in our profession, just do the new technology like dentistry. We can't imagine it ever being boring with all the things that we are learning or still can learn and haven't learned. And, and we're at, getting on the last third or whatever of our careers. So keep it fun and engaging and interesting.
Yeah.
And then on the leadership side as well, continue to learn how to connect with your team and your patients, that's an art in itself. That we know the ones who do well do it well, like you two, Todd and James.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
just connecting with people. And so to me, it's about, if you're engaged in your profession and you love it, then your team knows it and your patients know it, and it keeps people coming back.
well, you're getting some fan. Let me go. You're getting some fan mail here. Evan Frobisher says the Strawmans are the best, and then Jackie Tong's been watching the whole time. He's a patient of yours, and
Jackie.
I'm not going to say all what he just said because it's a little too long. But he had a problem, and Scott, you opened up an appointment time for him that he was very grateful for, and he loves you as a dentist. So anyway, you're getting some great love out there. This shows the kind of leadership you do, not only at your home but in your individual practices. And we thank you very, very much for being on today. You're a blessing, and anybody out there that's looking for an example, it's either one of you or both of you together.
Hey, Todd, before we sign off here, I want to acknowledge how much I respect these people. And Scott, you remember this. I had placed an implant and had an unusual reaction afterwards. Yeah. Guess who the first person I called?
Oh,
Scott. Because that's how much I respect you. And Leslie, I respect you too. But the point is that with some of our prior conversations, I knew that Scott definitely had a journey much ahead of me in implants, and with his knowledge, I knew he knew the data, he knew the research, and it was actually a lot of help, and I really appreciate that. Because you mentioned, even as educators, we don't know it all. We're on this journey with everyone else, and I can tell you, every class I teach, I learn something from everybody in the class. And our goals are to uplift the community and make everyone better. And you folks are pinnacle people in that area. And I really say that sincerely, not to build you up, but to share with the fact that's how much I respect you guys.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
I really mean that
just
a lot.
Just for fun.
I still love your dog. Your dogs are. I follow you. If you don't have your dog someday, I'll still follow you. But
Hey, just for fun, since you guys are social distancing in different parts of the house, why don't you just kind of blow each other a kiss real quick? Oh, now that's sweet.
Oh, I just love it.
Very good. All right, my friends, thank you so much. We'll see you in San Diego soon. Thanks.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys. All right.
Yay.
Hey, Strommers, we knew they were gonna kill it. They're just awesome people, and what I love about them is that not only are they running great practices, but they keep their education up, and that's important, because it's really easy, I think, and I'm preaching to myself right now, to get hung up in the same methodology and not try to grow in an education basis. And so they've done it together. I think that's cool.
Well, you know what, Todd? I think the greatest challenge that I have now that I educate more than I ever have, in fact, it's half or more than half of my career, is being educated myself. I spent a lot of time on Dental XP. In fact, I couldn't get my last 10 units of CE that I need for July because it was at the AECD. So I've been spending time with dentalxp.com. Oh, good. And it actually motivates me. It gives me and refurbishes that first love experience. And it's a wonderful thing to be in. And I think what I'm having to deal with, knowing the fact that I'm in my 60s, I don't want to quit. I mean, I want to keep going. And, we all have our genetic influence. And fortunately, my hand and eye coordination is good. My body's starting to break down a little bit. And
your heart's strong, your mind's strong. You got it together. But I'm upset. I'm mad.
My dad said this clear to the very end. My dad passed away around almost 90, and we had this conversation even a month before he passed away. And he goes, "I wouldn't go back for anything. It's just I want to live longer because I enjoy life and I want to be around you guys. But I know I've done my thing in life. I'm at peace with my God. I'm at peace with what I do." And he says, "I wouldn't give the past." He says, "I wouldn't want to go back because I enjoy what I have now." With the full package of living. And I just thank God that happens, because I feel the same way with dentistry. I'd love to have the body I had at 35, but I wouldn't go back.
Nah,
Mainly
nah,
because
you're
of
good.
knowing people like you and the Strommers and this rich relationship we have. And thank you,
No,
Todd,
no, no,
for
no, no.
doing.
I'm angry. I'm not
Well,
happy right now.
well, what this process your anger? Come
No,
on.
no. I'm mad. We talk on the phone about every single day, right? And you
Yeah.
and you had an implant failing, and you didn't. You called Scott first, and then you
Yeah.
didn't even call Leslie, and then you didn't even look at me in the screen. You know, I know my position in the world of dentistry. That's okay.
Sometimes the truth hurts, doesn't it?
I'll keep that one in for you. All right, my friend. Inside joke. Nobody needs
Love
to know
you,
what I just
love you,
did.
Todd.
I love you too. Thanks to the Strommer for coming in. We have Eddie Corrales coming Sunday night, so we're keeping it San Diego style a little bit longer. And thanks to Remo for your great leadership out there. All right, everybody.
Yep.
Thanks so much. See you on Sunday.
Love you guys. Stay safe.